Imagine a cold so absolute, so physically aggressive that it feels less like weather and more like a predator waiting just beyond the threshold of your door. We are not talking about the polite chill of a modern winter where a thermostat is just a touch away. We are slipping back into the deep, frozen heart of the Middle Ages, into a world where winter was a siege engine made of ice and wind. You are standing outside a peasant's cottage, the thatched roof heavy with snow that glitters under a cruel, pale moon. The air is so sharp it feels like inhaling crushed glass. It tightens your chest and instantly numbs any exposed skin. You take a breath, and the moisture inside your nose freezes in a split second. This is the kind of cold that doesn't just make you shiver, it threatens to extinguish you. Yet, people lived here. They survived this, and tonight you are going to learn exactly how they did it, adopting habits that seem like pure magic to us now, but were simply the rhythm of survival for them. Before we step out of this lethal wind and into the sanctuary of the past, if you find comfort in these journeys through history, remember to support the channel. Now, pull your cloak tight. It is time to go inside. You push against the heavy, rough-hewn timber door. It groans on iron hinges, a sound of protest against the frost, and you slip quickly into the interior. The transition is instantaneous and overwhelming. You move from the biting, sterile clarity of the freezing outdoors into a thick, sensory embrace of smoke, shadow, and humanity. You quickly shove the door shut, ramming the bolt home and checking the edges. In a medieval winter, a draft isn't just a nuisance, it is a thief that steals your life force. You stand there for a moment in the near darkness, letting your eyes adjust. The room smells of ancient soot, unwashed wool, dried herbs, and the earthy dampness of a mud floor. It is a dense, heavy smell, but strangely, it feels like safety. The silence here is different from the silence outside. Outside, it was the silence of the void. Inside, it is the hush of hibernation. You can hear the wind whistling around the corners of the cottage, searching for a way in, scratching at the wattle and daub walls like a creature wanting to be let in. But you are safe for now. As your vision clears in the dim orange glow of the dying hearth, you notice the walls. They are not smooth or perfect. They are textured maps of survival. Every crack, every gap between the timbers has been stuffed with moss, old rags, or twisted ropes of straw. This wasn't laziness, it was insulation by necessity. The medieval peasant understood thermodynamics through feeling, not physics. They knew that still air is the best keeper of heat. You run a hand over the rough wall and feel a slight movement of air where the insulation has thinned. Instinctively, you grab a bundle of spare straw from the corner and jam it into the gap. It's a muscle memory you didn't know you had. In this room, architecture is not static. It is a constant, living process of patching and sealing. You are hermetically sealing yourself into this wooden box, creating a microclimate that exists in defiance of the frozen world outside. You move closer to the hearth, the spiritual and physical center of the home. The fire is low, a bed of pulsing red embers rather than a roaring flame. Wood is precious, labor-intensive to gather, and must last until spring. You hold your hands out, fingers splayed towards the heat. Your skin tingles painfully as the blood rushes back into your frozen extremities. It is a stinging sensation, the hot ache of returning circulation. You recall a small, almost forgotten fringe fact of the era: tallow. You reach for a small pot of rendered animal fat kept near the fire warmth. You dig out a greasy smear and rub it onto your cracked lips and the split skin of your knuckles. It smells faintly of meat, but it soothes the windburn instantly. This is the peasant's lotion, a byproduct of the kitchen protecting the body. It is crude, it is greasy, but it works. Standing there, anointed with fat and warmed by embers, you realize that comfort is relative. In 2024, comfort is excess. In 1324, comfort is simply the absence of immediate suffering. But there is something else in the room with you, something that hangs in the air like a phantom: smoke. In these early medieval cottages, chimneys were a futuristic luxury. Here, the smoke from the hearth rises up and pools in the rafters, forming a dark, choking ceiling. It creates a hazy atmosphere, blurring the edges of the room. Your eyes water slightly, a familiar sting that you barely notice anymore. You are literally marinating in wood smoke. It clings to your hair, your skin, your clothes. If you were to walk into a modern office right now, people would smell you from down the hall. But here, this is the scent of life. The smoke actually helps in a way. It waterproofs the thatch roof above and keeps the insects dormant. Historians and medical anthropologists often debate this aspect of peasant life, the constant inhalation of particulate matter. Did they have lungs of leather, hardened by exposure, or did they suffer in silence? Standing here, breathing shallowly to avoid coughing, you suspect it's a bit of both. The smoke is a blanket, toxic yet warm, wrapping the house in a gray embrace.
It is time to prepare for sleep. But sleep in a medieval winter is not a passive act. It is a strategic operation. You move towards the sleeping area, which is essentially a raised platform of packed earth or wood, lifted just enough to escape the coldest drafts that snake along the floor. You look at the bed. It is not a mattress of springs and foam. It is a sack of heavy linen stuffed with straw. You reach down and punch it. It crunches. It is loud. Every time you move tonight, the bed will talk back to you. But you know a trick. You reach under the bedding and scatter a handful of dried herbs, maybe woodruff, lavender, or crushed mint, stored from the summer harvest. It is a tiny luxury, a frantic attempt to mask the smell of damp straw and stale smoke with the memory of a summer garden. It doesn't change the temperature, but it changes the mood. It is a psychological defense against the bleakness of winter. Now begins the ritual of layering. In the modern world, we strip down to sleep. Here, you build up. You are not taking off your tunic, you are adding to it. You reach for a heavy woolen cloak, the fabric thick, scratchy, and smelling of lanolin. You wrap it around your shoulders. Then another layer, perhaps an old blanket stitched together from scraps of worn-out clothing. This is the patchwork survival method. Nothing is thrown away, it is just repurposed into insulation. You sit on the edge of the crackling straw mattress and pull on thick woolen hose, pulling them up over your knees. You might even wrap strips of linen around your feet, a medieval precursor to thermal socks. You feel bulky, restricted, almost round with layers. But as the ambient temperature of the room drops, mirroring the deep freeze outside, you feel a glowing pride in your bulk. You are armor-plated against the chill. You lie down. The straw creates a landscape of peaks and valleys beneath you. You have to wiggle and shift, excavating a hollow for your hips and shoulders. It is not soft, but it is insulated. As you settle, you become aware of the soundscape of the cottage. It is never truly quiet. The timbers pop and groan as they contract in the cold. The wind creates a constant low-frequency hum against the thatch. And then there is the breathing. You are not alone. A medieval peasant rarely slept in solitary confinement. Your family is here, piling on to the same platform, a puppy pile of humanity. You feel a knee press against your back, an elbow near your shoulder. In a world without central heating, other human bodies are biological radiators. You absorb their heat, they absorb yours. It is an intimate, unspoken transaction of survival. You pull the shared blanket, a heavy, rough thing that weighs 5 pounds on its own, up to your chin. You bury your nose in the wool to create a pocket of warm air to breathe. As you drift towards the first stage of sleep, your mind wanders to the concept of time. We think of sleep as one 8-hour block, but for you tonight it will be 2 distinct journeys. The first sleep will take you until shortly after midnight. Then you will wake up. The whole house will wake up. In that hour of darkness between the first and second sleep, the village comes alive in a whisper. You might tend a fire, check the animals, or pray. It is a sacred, quiet time that the modern world has entirely lost. But for now, your eyelids are heavy. The smoke haze softens the room into a dreamscape. The cold is still there, waiting at the door, pressing its face against the window, but you have built a fortress of moss, wool, straw, and body heat. You are winning. The darkness of the cottage is absolute, save for the dull red eye of the hearth. But as you lay there, your senses heighten. You can smell the earth floor, a damp, grounding scent. You can hear the scratch, scratch, scratch of something in the thatch above, a mouse perhaps, or a bird seeking the rising heat of your home. You don't mind. In winter, the cottage becomes an ark. Every living thing is seeking the same thermal refuge. You are just the captain of this small frozen vessel. You feel a sudden draft, a needle of ice that has found a new way through the wall. You shift, tucking your cloak tighter, sealing the breach. It is a constant battle, a game of chess with the elements. You close your eyes and the darkness swallows you. You let your mind drift away from the harsh reality of the frozen mud outside, inward towards the warmth of your own blood, the beat of your heart, and the collective rhythm of the sleepers beside you. Suddenly, a sound cuts through the drowsiness, a low guttural moan from the other side of the wall. It vibrates through the timber frame of the bed. It isn't a monster, it is the cow. In many of these longhouse-style cottages, the livestock lives in the room next door, or sometimes just behind a thin partition. You can hear the heavy, rhythmic chewing of the cud, the stomp of a hoof, the massive, sighing exhalations of the beasts. This is not a nuisance, it is a blessing. The body heat of a 1,000-pound animal is a powerful thing. It radiates through the wall, raising the temperature of your quarters by those crucial few degrees. You are sleeping next to a living furnace. The smell of the stable, manure, hay, and animal musk drifts in. To a modern nose, it might be pungent. To you tonight, it smells like life. It smells like heat. You silently thank the animals for their unwitting charity. But not all the animals are welcome. As your skin warms up under the layers of wool, you feel it. A tickle. Then a sharp, tiny prick on your calf. Then another on your waist. Fleas, lice, the uninvited guests of the medieval winter. They wake up when you do. They thrive in the warm microclimate you have so carefully constructed under the blankets. It is an annoyance that would drive a modern person to madness. But you possess the stoic resignation of the era. You reach down and scratch, a slow, satisfying rasp of fingernails on skin. You don't panic. You don't strip the bed. You just scratch and accept it. It is the tax you pay for warmth. You remember a folk remedy you heard at the market, scattering wormwood or fleabane in the sheets. You wish you had some now. But eventually, the itch fades into the background noise of the night, just another sensation in a life full of rough textures. Hunger is another bedfellow. You ate before bed, a pottage of boiled grains, maybe a heel of hard bread, but it burns off quickly in the cold. Your stomach gives a hollow growl. In the winter, the body burns calories just to keep the core temperature up. You lie there visualizing a feast. Roasted pork dripping with fat, hot loaves of bread, spiced wine. These hunger dreams are vivid and cruel, a common side effect of the lean months. You press your hand against your stomach, willing it to be quiet. You distract yourself by listening to the wind. It has changed pitch. It is no longer whistling. It is howling. The storm is intensifying. The cottage shudders. A physical impact like a heavy shoulder slamming against the wall. The wind is testing the structural integrity of your home. You hear the thatch lifting and slapping back down, a chaotic rustling overhead. For a second, pure primal fear spikes in your chest. If the roof goes, the winter comes in, and if the winter comes in, it is over. You hold your breath, eyes wide in the dark, waiting for the sound of tearing wood. But the old house holds. It creaks, it sways, it groans like an old ship at sea. but the timbers were joined by hands that knew the violence of this season. You exhale. The danger is real, but the shelter is strong. This oscillation between terror and safety is the heartbeat of the night. You are living on the edge of a knife, but you are still on the safe side. The hours stretch out. You drift in and out of the first sleep. Dreams are fragmented and strange, woven from the smoke and the sounds of the storm. Then you wake up fully. It is the watch, the time between sleeps. The fire has burned down to dangerous levels. You know, without being told, that it is your turn. You slide out from the warmth of the pile. The cold hits you like a physical blow, shocking the air from your lungs. You move quickly across the frozen earth floor, your feet numb instantly. You grab the iron poker and disturb the white ash, finding the glowing heart of the fire. You feed it a piece of precious hardwood, blowing gently until the orange flame licks upwards, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls. The room breathes again. You stand there for a moment, the guardian of the flame, watching the shadows fight back the dark. You are the keeper of the warmth. You stand alone in the gloom, watching the fresh log catch fire. This period, the watch, is the only time the house is truly still. The heavy breathing of your family behind you, the rhythmic chewing of the cows through the wall, and the crackle of the wood create a hypnotic trance. It is a moment of profound solitude in a life that has almost no privacy. You take this time to think, to pray, or simply to exist without the demand of labor. You look at your hands, calloused and ingrained with dirt that no amount of scrubbing can remove. These hands have harvested grain, slaughtered pigs, and mended thatch. They are the tools of your survival. In the quiet, you notice the smoke has lowered, forming a spectral fog just above your head. You crouch low, staying in the clearer air near the floor. This is the peasant's crouch, a posture learned from infancy to avoid the stinging cloud above. It is a world of layers, layers of air, layers of clothes, layers of society, and you know exactly where you fit in all of them. Eventually, the cold begins to seep through your tunic again, a gentle but firm reminder that you cannot stay awake forever. You move back toward the sleeping platform. The straw mattress rustles loudly as you climb back in, but the sleepers barely stir. They are deep in the trough of rest. You slide back into your designated spot, a warm hollow shaped by your body earlier in the night. The heat hits you instantly, a humid, organic warmth generated by the pile of bodies. It is overwhelming after the crisp air of the room, but it is delicious. You pull the heavy, scratchy wool blanket back over your head. Your feet are blocks of ice, so you tuck them against the warm calves of the person sleeping next to you. They grunt in their sleep, a subconscious protest, but they do not pull away. This is the pact of the bed. We share the warmth, we share the cold. Now you drift into the second sleep. This phase is different. The first sleep was physical exhaustion. This second sleep is deeper, more vivid. It is the sleep of dreams. Medieval records and folklore are full of wild, intense dreams, visions of angels, demons, or abundant harvests. Perhaps it is the smoke, or the heavy bread, or the constant underlying anxiety of winter, but your mind spins tales as you lie there. You dream of summer. You dream of the sun hitting the back of your neck, of green fields, of the river flowing freely without a cap of ice. It is a cruel dream, because you know you will wake up to a world of gray and white, but for now, your mind allows you this escape. The wind outside has died down to a low murmur, no longer attacking the house, but simply flowing around it like water around a stone. The storm has broken. Hours pass. The rhythm of the night remains unbroken until a shift occurs. It is not a sound, but a change in the quality of the darkness. The crepuscular light of pre-dawn begins to bleed through the cracks in the shutters. It is a blue, bruised light, cold and unforgiving. Inside the cottage, the temperature has bottomed out.
The fire you tended is now just a pile of gray ash with a faint, dying pulse of heat at its center. This is the coldest hour, the time when the soul feels most fragile. You wake up not because you were rested, but because your nose is freezing. You touch the blanket near your face. It is stiff. The moisture from your breath has crystallized into a thin layer of frost on the wool. You are literally sleeping under a sheet of ice your own making. The realization makes you shiver, a violent shudder that runs from your shoulders to your heels.
The village is waking up. You hear the first sounds of the morning, and they are not the cheerful chirping of birds. It is the sound of coughing. It starts in your own bed, a dry, hacking cough from the elder sleeping in the corner. Then, faintly, through the wattle and daub walls, you hear a neighbor coughing. It is the chorus of the medieval winter. Respiratory issues are a constant companion here, a result of the damp, the cold, and the smoke. There is no pharmacy to run to, no syrup to soothe the throat. There is only endurance. You might brew a tea of horehound or coltsfoot later, herbs gathered in the autumn for this exact purpose. But for now, you just lie there and listen to the fragility of human life echoing through the village. It is a stark reminder that surviving the night is not a guarantee, it is a victory. Reluctantly, painfully, you decide to rise. The mental effort required to leave the warm cocoon of the bedding is immense. You count to 3 in your head, summoning the will. On 3, you throw the blanket back. The cold air rushes in like water, filling the space where your warmth used to be. You sit up, gasping slightly. Your breath plumes in front of you, thick and white. You swing your legs over the edge of the platform and your feet hit the earthen floor. It is hard, uneven, and colder than you can imagine. It sucks the heat right out of your soles. You fumble for your boots in the semi-darkness. The leather is stiff, frozen into the shape you left it in last night. You have to force your feet inside, the cold leather biting at your skin until it warms up. You stand, your joints creaking, feeling every year of hard labor in your stiff back. Your first task is the fire. It is not just for heat, it is for light, for cooking, for spirit. You kneel in the ash, a priest at the altar of survival. You use a pair of iron tongs to find a live coal. You blow on it, gently, steadily. The ash flies up into your face, coating your skin in a fine gray powder. You don't wipe it off. You nurture the spark, feeding it dried moss, then twigs, then a split log. When the flame finally catches, leaping up with a snap, you feel a wave of relief that is almost emotional. The fire is back. The heart of the house is beating again. You hang a cauldron of water over the flames. Or you try to. You look into the bucket you filled last night. The water is solid. A thick disk of ice has formed over the top. You have to take a heavy iron ladle and smash through the crust to get to the water beneath. The sound of breaking ice is the loudest thing in the room, a sharp crack that signals the start of the workday. Food is next. Breakfast in a medieval winter is not a feast. It is fuel. You might have pottage, a thick gray stew of oats, peas, and maybe a bit of onion, reheated from the night before. It is bland, it is heavy, and it sits in your stomach like a stone, releasing energy slowly throughout the morning. You eat it standing up, huddled near the fire, passing the wooden bowl around to your family members as they emerge from the bed, looking like bears waking from hibernation. Their faces are pale, streaked with soot, their eyes bleary. There is not much conversation. Words take energy, and the cold steals energy. You communicate in nods and grunts. Did the roof hold? Yes. Are the animals quiet? Yes. That is enough. The bond between you is forged in this silence. You move to the door. It is time to face the world. You unbar the heavy timber and push. It resists. Snow has drifted against it during the night. You shove hard, putting your shoulder into the wood, and the door scrapes open, carving a path through the white bank outside. The light hits you, blinding, brilliant white light reflecting off the snow. After the gloom of the cottage, it is dazzling. You step out. The air is still, frozen in time. The storm has left the village buried in a pristine, deadly beauty. Smoke rises in straight, vertical columns from the thatched roofs of your neighbors, signaling that they too have survived. You see footprints leading to the well, to the animal pens. Life is resuming. You take a deep breath. The air is so clean it hurts, scrubbing the smoke from your lungs. You trudge towards the animal shed. The snow crunches loudly under your boots, a dry, squeaky sound that only happens when the temperature is far below freezing. You open the partition to the animals. They turn to look at you, their breath rising in clouds of steam. The heat in here is palpable, thick with the smell of manure and straw. You check them over. The cow is chewing calmly. The pigs are huddled together in a pile of bristles and fat. They are fine. You feel a surge of affection for these beasts. They're your wealth, your food, your heat source. Their survival is tied inextricably to yours. You fork some hay into their manger, the dry stalks rustling, the dust dancing in the shafts of sunlight cutting through the cracks in the wall. This daily rhythm of care is what keeps the world turning. As you work, breaking ice on the trough, carrying fodder, sweeping the snow, you begin to warm up. The physical exertion generates the heat that the fire couldn't provide. You feel your blood pumping, your muscles loosening. You are a machine of survival, built for this environment. It is easy for us, looking back from the comfort of the 21st century, to pity the medieval peasant. We see the dirt, the cold, the smoke, the hardship. We imagine a life of misery. But standing there in the snow, wiping sweat from your brow despite the freezing air, you don't feel miserable. You feel alive. You feel capable. You have faced the night, the storm, the hunger, and the cold, and you are still standing. There is a resilience here that we have forgotten, a toughness that is not aggressive, but enduring. You look back at your cottage. It is small, crooked, and dark, but it is warm. Smoke is pouring from the vent, a banner of victory against the winter sky. Inside, there is food, however meager. There is family. There is a fire. In this harsh, frozen world, you have carved out a space for human life. You realize that winter is not an enemy to be defeated, but a season to be respected, navigated, and endured. You wipe your hands on your tunic, pick up your wooden pail, and head back towards the warmth of the hearth. The day has begun. The cycle continues. And tonight, you will do it all over again. This was the reality of a medieval winter. It was a life stripped down to its essentials: heat, food, shelter, and companionship. It was a life of extreme sensory contrasts: the biting wind and the stifling smoke, the freezing mud and the burning embers, the crushing isolation of the storm, and the intense intimacy of the shared bed. It sounds terrifying to us, yet there is a strange, quiet beauty in it, a beauty born of simplicity and strength. So, the next time you adjust your thermostat or complain about the draft in your hallway, take a moment to remember the straw mattress, the frozen water bucket, and the smoke-filled room. Remember the people who lived through the long dark so that we could be here today. If you enjoyed this journey into the frozen past and want to support the channel, please like the video and subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what the weather is like outside your window right now. Stay warm, sleep well, and I will see you in the next story.